We continue now at the top of Daf Samech Amud Aleph and Meseches Menachos. This is Menachos Daf 61a. On the previous summit, the Gemara was discussing the Machlokas Tanoim in the Mishnah. In the Mishnah, there's a Machlokas Tanoim with regards to Minchas Kohanim and Minchas Kohen Mashiach, whether it requires Hagosha, bringing it close to the Mizbeach or not. Rabbi Shimon says the Minchas Kohanim and Minchas Kohen Mashiach does not require Hagosha, bringing close to the Mizbeach. In the Mishnah, they listed all of the Menachos that do in fact require Hagosha, and now the Gemara is in the middle of bringing a Braisa in which Rabbi Shimon is discussing again which carbon minchas do require Hagosha and which do not. And the Braisa now continues, Marba ani shar menachos, I'm going to include these other menachos, those are the carbon minchas in the list in the Mishnah, Shabos biglal atzman, essentially carbon minchas that come on their own, they're not accompanying an animal carbon, so those I can include and say there's a requirement of Hagosha. Umotzi ani minchas nesachim, but I'm going to exclude minchas nesachim, the mincha of libations, which comes along with animal karbonos, she'ina ba biglal atzma. It doesn't come on its own, it's not independent, and therefore it's excluded from this halacha of Hagosha. And the Braisa continues, V'alo minchas kohanim and minchas kohen Mashiach. Now what about minchas kohanim and minchas kohen Mashiach? That's the mincha of the kohen gadol. Both biglal atzman, those do come on their own. So yachol yehu teunos Hagosha, one might think those require Hagosha, those require being brought close to the Mizbeach. Talmud lomar v'higisha, it says in the pasuk v'higisha, and that's understood as an exclusion. These ones are brought close to the Mizbeach, but not the Minchas Kohanim and the Minchas Kohen Mashiach. But the Gemara continues and asks, Haimi boile lagufa, but isn't the word v'higisha needed for the pasuk itself to tell you shetu'una Hagosha, that there's a requirement of Hagosha? How can we use that for an exclusion? And the Gemara says to that, min v'higisha, it's really learned from the fact that it could have said v'higish, and instead it says v'higisha, and therefore we can understand that as an exclusion. And the Braisa continues, why do you see fit to include other menachos and to exclude minchas kohanim and the mincha of the kohen gadol? Marbani shar menachos, the reason why I include other menachos, sheyesh mehen leishim, because there is from them brought onto the fire, meaning some of them are burned on the fires of the mizbeach. Ubos biglal atzman, and again they're brought independently, they're brought on their own. V'yesh mehen lekohanim, and some of them are eaten by the kohanim, meaning some portion of them are eaten by the kohanim. Umotzi ani, and therefore I exclude the following. Umotzi ani shtei halechem v'lechem aponim. I exclude the shtei halechem, that's the two loaves that are brought on Shavuos, and the lechem aponim, the weekly bread in the Beis Hamikdash. She'ein mehen leishim. None of that is put on the fires of the mizbeach. Uminchas nesachim, and I also exclude minchas nesachim. She'eina ba biglal atzma, it doesn't come on its own independently. Uminchas kohanim uminchas kohen Mashiach, and the minchas kohanim and the mincha of the kohen gadol, she'ein mehen lakohanim, there none of it is eaten by the kohanim, they're entirely burned. And finally, the Braisa concludes, V'heirim, the pasuk says V'heirim, that's a pasuk written by the pasuk that talks about Hagosha, again bringing the mincha close to the Mizbeach. And the Braisa says, Yochel B'kli, one might think that one is able to use a vessel to take the kometz, to take the fistful. Talmud Lomer, the pasuk says in a different place, V'heirim mimenu b'kumtso, it says he's going to take b'kumtso. Maharama ha'amr lahalan b'kumtso, just like there where it says harama, it means with his actual hand, he takes the kometz, he takes the fistful. Af harama ha'amr kan b'kumtso. So too over here, the harama that's mentioned, it means bukumso. Again, it means that it's taken with his hand. That's how he takes the fistful. And Rashi explains, Marbani shar menachos sharedomos la'ela. Again, we include other menachos which are similar to this carbon mincha. Sheyesh mehen v'yesh mehen lakohanim. Again, they have these qualities. Hashirayim, the remnant goes to the kohanim. V'heirim ba'osa parsha ksiv. And the word v'heirim is written in this parsha. It says v'heirim hakohen min hamincha. It says v'heirim hakohen min hamincha. Now, yachol b'kli, one might think one can use a vessel. Talmud lomar b'makom acher, the pasuk says in a different place, v'heirim mimenu b'kumtso, it says v'heirim mimenu b'kumtso, v'yolef harama l'gzeira shavah. So we make a gzeira shavah, it says harama there, harama over here, and we understand that it has to be b'kumtso. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Elu tu'unos tenufa, the following require waving, ve'ein tu'unos hagosha, but they do not require hagosha, they do not require being brought close to the Mizbeach. Log shemen shel mitzorah, the log of oil of the mitzorah, part of the mitzorah, the leper's purification process, va'ashamo, and also his carbon asham, v'habikurim, kedivrei Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, and also bikurim, according to Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, he says they require tenufa, waving, ve'imurei shal meyachid, and the sacrificial portions of an individual's carbon shlamim, v'chazav v'shor, shok shalohen, and the breast and the thigh of the Shalmei Yachid. Echad anoshim ve'echad noshim b'Yisrael v'lo ba'acherim, whether men or women in Yisrael, but not others. That line will be explained in the Gemara. And the Mishnah continues, Shtei halechem u'shnei kivsei atzeres, and the Shtei halechem, the 2 loaves of Shavuos, and Shnei kivsei atzeres is the 2 sheep of Shavuos. And the Mishnah continues, Ketzad huosa, how is the tenufa done? Nosa in Shtei halechem al gabi shnei kavasim, he puts the Shtei halechem on top of the Shnei kavasim, the 2 loaves on top of the 2 sheep. Umeniach Shtei yadav lamata, he puts his 2 hands underneath. Molech umevi, he goes back and forth in different directions. Mala umorid, he goes up and down. Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, asher hunaf asher huram, like it says asher hunaf asher huram. We'll see Rashi on that, but the idea is this pasuk indicates how the waving should be done. And the Mishnah continues, tenufa haisa b'mizrach, the tenufa, the waving is done in the east. We'll see Rashi in a moment that it's even done east of the mizbeach. V'hagasha b'mayrav, and the hagasha, the bringing close to the mizbeach, that's done in the west. Tenufos kodmos lahagashas, and the waving comes before the bringing close to the mizbeach. And the Mishnah continues, minchas ha'omer or minchas kenos, the minchas ha'omer and the minchas kenos, which is the mincha of the sota, to unos hagasha utenufa, those require both hagasha and tenufa. They require being brought close to the mizbeach and waving. Lechem aponim and minchas nesachim, the lechem aponim and the minchas nesachim, which is the mincha of libations. Again, that's the mincha that accompanies various animal karbonos. Those ein tu'unos lo hagasha v'lo tenufa, they do not require hagasha or tenufa. And the Mishnah continues, Rabbi Shimon Omer, Rabbi Shimon says, Gimel minin tu'unin gimel mitzvos. There are 3 items which we're going to list in a moment, which they require 3 mitzvos, but shnayim b'chol achas v'achas, only 2 apply in each one of them, 2 out of the 3, as we'll see in a moment. Ushlishas ein behen, the 3rd doesn't apply. Ve'elohein, they are as follows. Zivchei shalmei yachid, the first is the individual shlamim. Ve'zivchei shalmei tzibor, and then the communal shlamim. Ve'yasham mitzorah, and the yasham of the mitzorah, the yasham of the leper. And the Mishnah now continues and clarifies Zivchei shalmei yachid, with regards to Zivchei shalmei yachid, the shlamim of an individual, tu'unin smicha chayim, u'tenufa shchutin, they require smicha, which is leaning upon the animal while the animal is alive, and they also require waving shechutin when the animal's already been slaughtered. Ve'ein bohen tenufa chayim, but they do not require waving while the animal is alive. That's the idea of 2 out of 3. So smicha and tenufa shchutin, but not tenufa chayim. That's with regards to the Zivchei shalmei yachid. Zivchei shalmei tzibur, with regards to the communal shlamim, te'unim, tenufa chayim, ushchutin, they require waving both alive and after being slaughtered. Ve'ein b'hem smicha, and there is no leaning upon the animal. V'yasham mitzorah, and the yasham mitzorah, ton smicha tenufa chay, that requires leaning upon the animal and waving while the animal is alive. Ve'ein bo tenufa shachud, but there is no requirement of waving after the animal has been slaughtered. And Rashi explains, log of Yasham l'mitzorah ksibu v'heinef osam, by the log and asham of the mitzorah it says v'heinef, so that's the waving. V'habikurim kedivrei Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, bikurim requires tenufa according to Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Deshamina le bi'alma damar bikurim tunin tenufa, because we're going to see that he holds in general that bikurim require tenufa. Ve'murei shalmei yachid v'chaz v'shok, the sacrificial portions of the shlamim of an individual, and the chaz v'shok, which is the breast and the thigh, ksiv b'hu shok hatruma v'chazei hatenufa. It says shok hatruma v'chazei hatenufa. It mentions the waving, al ishe hachalovim yaviu lohanef tenufa, they're brought al ishe hachalovim, which is the sacrificial portions, again to be waved. And Rashi continues, echad shalmei anoshim yechad shalmei noshim b'Yisrael v'lo ba'acher mefarish b'Gemara. That line in the Mishnah will be explained in the Gemara in the next Amud. Shtei halechem v'kivsei atzeres ksibuhu v'heinef hakohen. By shtei halechem and kivsei atzeres it says v'heinef hakohen osam halechem abikurim tenufa shenamar b'miluim, and then the Mishnah quotes the pasuk that said by the miluim, where it says asher hunaf v'asher huram, so it mentions hunaf and huram. And earlier than that it says ve'inafto sam tenufa, and kol hani tenufos, it's mentioning tenufa so many times. Why? Lomar shemolech umevi umalu mori, to say that the waving is in all the different directions and up and down. Lishnachrin, another way of understanding this line in the Mishnah, me hunaf v'huram de miluim yalfinan l'shar tenufos, from the word hunaf and huram by the miluim, we learn by other tenufos again that this is the way the waving should be done. And then it said b'mizrach, it said that the waving is done in the east. Kilomer, what that means is afilu b'mizracho shel mizbeach, it can even be done east of the mizbeach. Yachol lahan, if one is able to wave. V'kol shekain b'ma'aravo, now certainly it can be done west of the mizbeach, to karov yoser lahechel, because that's even closer to the hechel, to the actual Beis Hamikdash. Hatenufos kodmos lahagashos, the tenufos come first before hagashos. Techilo meina, first he waves, v'achar kach magisha, then he brings it close. Uveminchas ha'omer u'minchas kenos sheyesh b'hen tenufa v'hagasha, by the minchas ha'omer and the minchas kenos kanos, the mincha the sota, where there's both tenufa and hagasha, again the tenufa comes first. Uminayin sha tenufa kodem. Now, from where do we know that the tenufa comes first? Tichsib mincha sota vehenif es mincha lefnei Hashem, because by the sota's mincha it says vehenif v'hadar v'hikra v'osal mizbeach, and then it says bring it close to the mizbeach. Minchas omer kanos ksibu tenufa le'el yalfinan lu hagasha. By minchas omer and the minchas kanos of the sota it says tenufa, it's written, and earlier we learn out hagasha. And shlosha, meaning there are three items: shalmei yachid v'shalmei tzibur dein kivsei atzeres, the shlamim of an individual, and the communal shlamim, which actually refers specifically to the sheep of atzeres. That's the example of shalmei tzibur. V'yashem mitzora, and also the yashem mitzora to unin bein shloshta and shlosha mitzvos. Among those, there are three mitzvos that are required, but by each one it's only two of the three. Shnayim mitzvos mishlosha yesh b'chol min v'min. 2 out of 3 are needed by each one. V'hashlishi ein b'hem. The third doesn't apply to each one individually. De'ein b'chol min ela shtayim, meaning each one, shalmei yachid, shalmei tzibur, and yashem mitzora have 2 of the 3. Shalmei yachid ksib b'hu smicha b'vayikra. By shalmei yachid, it's written smicha in vayikra, u'tunin u'tenufa shchutin, and also tenufa when slaughtered, ksib b'parsha sab b'chaz v'shok shalahen. That's written by the chaz v'shok. And shalmei tzibur tunin tenufa chayim b'parshas emor. Shalmei tzibur require waving while alive in parshas emor, u'shchutin, and also shchutin slaughtered, the gamrin and lami shalmei yachid. That we learn from shalmei yachid. Aval smicha lo can mefarish b'gemara, but smicha is not required, as the Gemara explains. And asham mitzora ksib tenufa chayim. The asham of the mitzora, it's written that it's waved while alive. The chsiv v'heinef osam bezos tiyat Toras usmicha gamrinan l'chol karbonas hayachid, and so again that's learned from the pasuk. And smicha we learn for all karbonas yachid. Beperek shtei midos and perek shtei midos. Avalo tenufa shachid. That does, but the yasham mitzora does not require tenufa when it's slaughtered. Can mefarish begemara, as the Gemara will explain. And the Gemara says Tanu Rabbanan, the sages taught in a brayso of hikriv oso liyasham veslog hashaman. That's talking about the yasham and the log hashaman by the mitzora v'heinef osam tenufa. It says that it's waved. Milamed shetuunin tenufa ke'echad. This teaches that it requires tenufa together. They're all waved together. Uminayin shem heinef zebi atzmo ve'zebi atzmo yatsa. Now, from where do we know if they're waved? If this one is waved separately and the other one waved separately, how do we know that one is yotze, one fulfills the obligation? Talmud Lomer, the pasuk says v'hikra v'oso lo asham v'heinef. It says v'hikra v'oso lo asham v'heinef, and so that shows that the asham and the log, if they are waved separately, that does fulfill the obligation. Now, yachol yonef v'yachzer v'yonef. One might think that one should wave them together and then wave them individually. Talmud Lomer tenufa. It says tenufa velo tenufos. It doesn't say tenufos in plural, and so therefore that is not the way it is supposed to be done. Now, lifnei Hashem b'mizrach, when it says lifnei Hashem, again, that means even in the east. The waving can be done even east of the Mizbeach. But the issue is, v'amar lifnei Hashem yachal b'mayrav, but there's another statement that's made, that lifnei Hashem is b'mayrav, is in the west. So is it in the west or is the east okay? And the Gemara answers to that. Amri, they answer, hani mili mincha to ikri chatos. There, where we say has to be in the west, that's by a mincha, which is referred to as a chatos. V'chatos to una yisod, and the chatos requires the base of the Mizbeach, v'keren dromis mizrachis, lo haya lo yisod, and the southeastern corner of the Mizbeach actually didn't have a base in that part of the Mizbeach, and therefore, in that particular situation, by that mincha, the east is going to be excluded. Avalacha, but over here, lifnei Hashem karina bay, it is still called lifnei Hashem, even if it's in the east. Rashi explains, v'heinifo sam alug v'asham ksiv, that's by the log shaman and the asham of the mitzora. Talmud lomar v'hikra v'osoli asham v'slog hashaman v'heinif mashma v'heinif alog l'chudekoi. That sounds like the waving is just on the log. Now yachol yonif shtein kechad, one might think to wave it both together. V'yachzer v'yonif kol echad liatzma, and then wave them individually as well. L'kayim mashanemar v'slog hashem and v'heinif, that would fulfill the pasuk of v'slog hashem and v'heinif. Talmud lomar tenufa lidrasha, it says tenufa as a drasha to have a l'michta v'heinif osam. It should have said v'heinefosam, and so again we darshan tenufa v'lo tenufos. Now lifnei Hashem b'mizrach, lifnei Hashem is in the east. Kolomar afilu b'mizrach, meaning even in the east. Karinan bei lifnei Hashem, that's still called lifnei Hashem. But ho'amrit b'kometz rabba, but we said in hakometz rabba gabe hagosha de mincha, by the bringing close of the mincha, we said lifnei Hashem dehainu b'mayriv, that lifnei Hashem is the west. So which one is it? And the Gemara answered, Hani mili mincha dikri chatos tichsiv kodesh kadashim hi kachatos. It says that a mincha is kodesh kadashim, holy of holies, like a chatos. The point is it's compared to a chatos. The chatos tuna yisod, we know the chatos requires the base of the mizbeach. Tichsiv bei v'eskol adam yishpoch el yisod. It says the blood is poured to the base of the mizbeach. The karen mizrach is dromas lo hava le yisod, and happens to be that the southeastern corner doesn't have a yesod. Kedaminim v'Meseches Midos, like we say Meseches Midos, ha-yesod, ha-yamahalech al pnei kol ha-tzafon v'al pnei kol ha-mayrev, ocha bedorom amo achas, dainu keren ma'aravis dromis. So in the south, meaning in the southwest, there's a little bit portion of the yesod, the havala yesod. Over mizrach amo achas, in the east, there's a little portion, dainu lekeren tzfonis mizrachis, that's specifically in the northeastern corner. Nimsa shalo ha-yesod l'chol ruach mizrachis ala amo achas, letzad keren mizrachis tzfonis. It comes out, there was no base of the mizbeach for the entire eastern side, except for that one little amma that was in the northeast corner. Well, the ruach dromis nami in the south side also in yesod ala amma achas, there was no yesod except for one amma, letzad ma'aravi, towards the west. Nimsa she'ein yesod lekeren mizrachis dromis, so it comes out there's no yesod by the southeast corner. Umincha lo sagi de lo mikrav le bedorim, and when it comes to the mincha, it had to be brought by the south. Techsiv el pnei hamizbeach, it says el pnei hamizbeach bedorim, that means the south. Kedamar b'hakometz rabbah, that's mentioned in hakometz rabbah. Hilkach al karchach, therefore, if it has to be the south, it must be bo'inan ma'aravis dromis, it must be the southwest. Ma'irav mishum yesod, it has to be the west because of the yesod. V'darim mishum el pnei, and darim is the fulfillment of el pnei. Why is that pnei hamizbeach? Dahainu darim, that's the south. Shabo hakevish, because that's where the ramp is, so that's considered to be the pnei hamizbeach. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, "V'habikurim kedivrei Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov." Bikurim requires waving, according to Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. My Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. What is this Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov? The Tanya, as we learned in the following brayso of Velokach HaKohen, it says Velokach HaKohen limeid ala bikurim tu'unin tenufa. This pasuk teaches that bikurim requires tenufa, waving. Divrei Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. These are the words of Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. And my time with Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. What is the reasoning of Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov? Gomar yad Shlomim. He learns the yad from Shlomim. Ksevach, it's written over here, Velokach HaKohen hatena miyodecha, that's written by Bikurim. It says yad. And Uchsiv Hasam, it's written over there, Yodov Teviena. It says Yodov Teviena by Shlomim. And we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Samech Aleph Amid Beis.